Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Not Another Isekai. I'm Tyler, and got some anime to watch, as always. This season coming to a grinding halt. What is it? Winter 2023. Coming to a grinding halt. We're just cleaning up the dregs today. Not in quality, obviously. Some great shows that we're wrapping up. But yeah, we're pretty much done with winter. Spring has already started. We actually have one spring show to talk about today. Might be one of the best. I think it is gearing up to be one of the best. But not too long today. We're in that weird transition period where we're, like I said, just kind of cleaning up a few of the current shows. And then really none of the new shows have super started yet. Next week, I believe, will be like the big, we're going to get a bunch of good ones in there. And then by the following week, everything should have started by then. But yeah, that's it. Let's wrap some stuff up. If I can just hit the right button. All right, so we got Buddy Daddies, episode 12. This is the finale. Honestly, might be like the series finale. I don't really know the source material for this. I know it's based on a manga, but the way this ends, I mean, we can just talk about it now and then we'll talk about the rest. But it ends with daughter daddies and them growing up. Them 10 years later, she's in high school. They're owning a diner, co-owning a little diner there. And, not hitmen anymore. We seem to have maybe come to terms with, because that was, one of the big questions that I had, that I think a lot of other people did too, is that I wonder if they ever told her. I mean, she's in high school at this point. She might not remember many things from when she was 5 or however old she was. Well, I mean, she wasn't in school yet, so I would say 5 max. Like 5 to me is when, like 5 or 6 is when you start kindergarten. So she had to be 5 max. Probably 4, honestly. She's probably like 4 years old. So yeah, she probably doesn't remember a lot of stuff from then. So I imagine because I'm trying to think. I'm like, when did I gain sentience? I mean, I definitely remember like before school, but it's like 4 is pretty young, especially like, well, I mean, she also didn't know anything. I mean, her life in many ways, whether she realized it or not, was pretty traumatic. So I mean, the mind is very good at blocking those things out. So, but I mean, she didn't like watch her mom die, I suppose. I mean, she could just not know, but I mean, I feel like that would eat up Kazuki and Rei to like never tell her, like, hey, your mom died. Not only did she die, she was murdered. And kind of because she got caught up and you got caught up with us. I feel like at some point they would have to tell her, but they talked about that in episode 10, I think, is when they talked about it. And they were like, no, I think it was before that. It might've been episode 9. They kind of mentioned it where they were like, what if we told Miri, like, would she still love us, basically? And as a kid, I don't think so. Like, her being 4, I don't think she would even understand. But as like a high schooler, it's like, at what point do you say, okay, they deserve to know, they deserve to know what happened. Maybe you don't tell them all the details. But maybe at the very least you say, hey, your mom's never coming back, like she died, right? Or do you just kind of bury that deep inside of you and you just say it's better off she doesn't know, because again, at this point, I feel like if she was aware of, I mean, again, I'm even thinking of it like, well, I guess she would have to have a mom. You can't not have a mom. I feel like by now they would have had some sort of conversation where it's like, okay, biologically, you can't be my only parents. Like, it doesn't make sense. You know, the science doesn't back this up. So like, what happened to my mom? And I feel like by now, high school probably would have asked that by now. And again, you know, they could always lie. Oh, we didn't know. Oh, we picked you up at an orphanage or something, or you just showed up at my doorstep one day. I have no idea. They could definitely go that route. Probably better. Again, probably better. I'm definitely better than the full truth. You know, which I'm sure they'll never tell her because that'd be ridiculous. But yeah, it just stuff there. But aside from that, very nice, very, very nice at the end. Them, you know, her like taking a picture in front of their diner was very nice. Ray still, you know, Ray only knowing how to make one dish, but he makes it really well. Yeah, good stuff. So that was the very end, but the actual episode itself was really good. You know, I was afraid because I was like, oh, you know, what are they gonna do with one episode left? And are they gonna leave anything open? But I feel like they did a pretty good job. It's all kind of surrounding, you know, kind of the B plot in all of this is that Miri is singing and the little Christmas holiday event. They have to break it to her that her mom isn't going to be there, which is really sad. But then Pinky promises that you know they will make it, and you know, fast forwarding a little bit to the end, you know, it is nice. It started out, it was very heartbreaking when they weren't there, and Miri was just like she was super sad, looking around like, oh, where's Koski, where's Ray, and they weren't there, and he's that's terrible. And then they showed up, and she was like literally the happiest person in the entire world. You know, so that was that. And again, you know, I just love Miri. You know, she's so innocent, she's so pure, and she very much embodies the whole like childlike perspective on just the world, right? You know, so for her seeing them come in, it's like, yeah, that's how she's supposed to feel. And then the A plot is obviously Koski and Ray going through, taking out the organization. They're able to infiltrate. One of the biggest dubs of the entire episode is them finally killing the whole like last words guy. I still don't know his name. They probably said it at one point. I don't remember. But them killing him is like, I hated him. So weird too. Like, I record people's last words. Like, all right, guy. But yeah, they did it in a great way. Again, very, very indicative of Koski and Ray's just approach to their whole like hitmen stuff. I mean, you even saw it a little bit in the previous episode, when Koski was trying to like bounce off of the idea of Ray to get the upper hand with this guy. And so you kind of see it again here, where, you know, he gets him. They're kind of fighting hand to hand. You know, he's definitely not as good as this guy. You know, Koski is not the hand to hand combat guy. He's definitely more of the like covert. Like, he does his disguises. He thinks of the plans, all that stuff. And then the whole gun thing doesn't work out. They're able to block it, take it, and then Ray comes in, saves the day, gets him not super winning in the hand to hand either. And then that gives Koski the opportunity to just stab him in the back, kicks him, falls on his knife goes through his throat. Awful. Almost some like John Wick type stuff. It was pretty cool. But yeah, it was so satisfying to see him finally get it, because he's just annoying. And I mean, I get it, right? He was doing his job with the boss and all that, but very, very happy to see him gone. And then you see him like reaching for his book, which I don't know if he wanted to like write down his own last words. He doesn't have any, just somewhat like ironic that he were to die in a way where the killing wound is his throat, so he's not actually able to say anything. And then they don't leave anything to chance, and they throw the lighter in the room with the like gas can, the gas tank thing goes up in flames. The whole place is up in flames. So I wonder, like, did the dad get out? Was he able to was he able to escape? Yeah. well, even before that, we have the other big moment, which is him confronting the dad and him shooting himself in the arm, basically trying to, like, physically but also symbolically cut himself off from the organization and from the boss. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm of no use to you anymore. Like my arm is dead. My arm's gone. Which I don't know how permanent that is, but if he doesn't have an arm anymore, well, I guess that's that. I mean, I guess we could have seen it in the daughter daddies thing. Was he moving both arms? I don't remember. But yeah, that was really big. And then even a bigger moment there was him turning away and leaving. And if you notice, his dad pulled up the gun with his other hand. You know, the hand that Ray didn't shoot, because Ray shot his own hand and the dad's hand. He bring up the gun. He could have very well shot him, but he didn't. He couldn't bring himself to do it. And I don't really know what that's supposed to mean. Maybe it's like he does love Ray at least a little bit, like he is still his son. Or maybe he just felt like he was outsmarted. You know, like killing Ray. What would killing Ray do? You know, like Ray's not joining a competing organization or anything. Like he's just not in it anymore. So shooting him and killing him, what, just to stroke your own hubris, doesn't it wouldn't do anything at all. Maybe a little bit of both, right? But yeah, so that's really the big moments. You know, and even at the end where Ray's like, you know, did we finally change? You know, because Ray asked that a couple times throughout the show, and I feel like up until now he didn't really get an answer, or the answer was kind of leaning towards no. But this time Koski, he didn't say no, but he was like, we have a long way to go, which is him basically saying, yes, we are starting to change, which I think is what Ray wants. Because again, you know, he mentioned it where he was like, I have a family. You know, I've learned things that you could have never taught me. So why would I stay here? I want to go with Koski and Miri. But yeah, I thought the episode was great. Like I said, you know, it kind of being in those multiple parts with, you know, them still showing up at the end of the day, them still being there for Miri, you know, proving their love there. You know, Ray cutting himself off from the organization finally, and Koski, I suppose, right? And then at the end we have the epilogue, which is the daughter daddy stuff. Perfect, you know. Yeah, and then really from here, it's like, do we get more show? You know, do we get, like, you know, I don't know what the manga covers. I don't know if the manga also does this little 10-year time jump. Or if there is, I mean, either way, I think I'd be very happy if there was more show. You know, I would be happy if they were to just continue it. And, I mean, just have, because honestly, the whole slice of life stuff is really what I enjoyed. You know, not that I didn't like the action scenes or the hitman stuff, but just the slice of life, like them taking care of her and just them having their own little wacky adventures was cool. Or even if they were to go back and maybe tell some of the middle part, right, of them still raising her, and you know, kind of what that was like, because they've never done that. You know, not only have they never raised a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, they never had to go through school or even like teen years or whatever, like those early teens. So I don't know, you know, I think there could be some cool, again, like slice of life, you know, comedic plot points there that they could go over. But either way, even if they were to just end it here and say no more show, it's over, we don't, you know, that was the show. That was a very tight 12 episodes. No real filler, I don't think. I mean, except for like the recap, but that doesn't count. Yeah, very, very happy. Definitely one of, at the very least, one of the more solid shows this season. You know, I don't know if it's like top 3, top 5, anything like that, but definitely a solid show, worth watching all 12 episodes. Yeah, and then next we got the one show that is continuing through the winter season. We got Vinland Saga Season 2, Episode 12. Just about halfway through. And yeah, this one was very big on the Kettle family. And then we have a little bit of a tease, I feel, for what the second half of this season is going to be. So So yeah, so basically the whole thing happened here, which I thought was very interesting, was um, them setting Omar up. I guess that was kind of the plan, because even last episode we talked about it, but I was like, I still don't understand like what Canute is gonna do, because he was like, oh, I'm gonna use Omar. Now we understand that the whole play was to get Omar to kill people like this and put it all in kettle, right? And then basically like take his farm. Again, I'm sure there's some finer details in there, but that's kind of the broad strokes of it. And there are a couple of things to note here, especially how the whole encounter ends. So first, very interested in the whole the like coin guy. I'm not really sure. He was like Canute's right hand man, right? Like that was the same dude who came to Canute at the end and was like, here's what happened, right? Like that's him. That was crazy. I mean, just him like flicking the coin and it killing the butterfly was very sad, obviously, very very sad. But butterfly was just living its life. But that was like, ooh, okay. And then him to flick it and go in the guy's eye, I was like, whoa. You know how much force you would have? Like, that's just a flick. You know how much force you would have to have? Like, people can flick stuff very far. Flick quarters, they, flick on bottle caps and stuff. I've seen people do that. You can flick things very far, right? And if you hit someone in the eye with it, I'm sure it'll hurt. I'm sure it'll hurt a whole lot. But for it to embed itself is like, how strong? How strong is this? Are this man's like fingered muscles? That's crazy. Also, a little bit of a literary reference for you. There's a book series called Mistborn, written by Brandon Sanderson. Favorite series of all time, and that has a lot to do with coins, a lot to do with coinage, metal. Kind of shooting metal, pulling metal. So that's kind of what it reminded me of as well. So yeah, that was I wonder if we'll see that again. I wonder if that'll come back at all with him like doing like mid-range attacks with coins. That'd be cool. Another detail in there, and I suppose this really just has. Okay. Let's move on to Omar himself, right? He's a failure. He sucks. I don't know if he's ever going to live up to anything. Him finally killing someone that destroyed him, right? I don't know that that's going to do what they want it to do, because remember in earlier episodes, they were trying to get him to kill Thorfinn and Einar, right? Trying to make him a man, right? And like, oh, your first kill is always the hardest. Once you get one, it'll get a lot easier, and then you'll be able to be a warrior. Just like your dad, just like your brother, all that stuff. Fast forward to now, and we finally get a payoff of that, and I don't think it's gonna work like that though. Like, he doesn't seem like, I got it now. He seems more like, oh no, I just killed a man. I don't like this. He might be more a little bit more of his dad, because you see his dad. I'm still not sure if the dad's actual story, if all of it is fabricated and just worked out in his favor, or if he did used to kill people left and right, and now he's grown up and now he's like, I'm like ashamed at what I used to do. I'm still not quite sure on that. But either way, Omar is definitely more like his old man and less like his young man. Where it's like, I can't kill, I can't do this. This is, he wanted this, right? He wanted to be a warrior. He wanted to prove himself, all that good stuff. But now that he's done it, it's like, he's freaking out. And, I just don't think that's him. Moving on to his brother, which is very much him. He slaughters everyone, right? We got that sweet Vinland Saga Mappa, fight animation stuff, where they just slice through bodies, right? Like, the one that I really liked was he like sliced them, and then that so much his sword had so much force that the man actually lifted in the air a little bit, and then he sliced him again and he like cut the man in half. I was like, I don't know if you can really do that in real life, but it looked good. Yeah. And Yeah, it looked great. Like his fight scene was crazy. Him just chopping through everyone, and then reinforcements came, and like they were more like the police, and they were like, "Get on the ground, you're under arrest." And Thorgal was like, "Unless, unless I'm not." He killed them as well, and he's basically, him and Kettle have two very different approaches to what's happening. Thorgal is like, "I want them to come at me," and Kettle is like, "You are gonna get us killed." So we'll see what happens. Um, I, we did see Canute there, and he's like, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it didn't go the way we wanted it to. There's still, it's still an outcome that works in our favor. That we can still go and be like, I mean, honestly, even better. Your boy here killed a dozen of our men. You can't just do that. So yeah, and let's see. So I suppose that the very ending here. Well, first off, just a little thing to note. We do see that Kettle's family is being smuggled out by Leaf. The guy's going to Thorfinn, so that's going to be somewhat of a connecting tissue. Because obviously, getting them back to the farm. I mean, they're obviously going back to the farm. Where else would they go? And then Leaf being there is like, oh yeah, we got Thorfinn. We can do it. Here we go. So that's gonna be interesting. Again, I don't really know if we've seen Leaf before. It's kind of what I was trying to think of earlier. But yeah, we'll see what that actually comes out to be. And then the very end, I really like the very, very end when we see Thorfinn, because he just kind of looks out on the horizon, and Einar's like, "Hey, what's going on? Everything okay?" And you can just see Thorfinn, and I read that as like he knows something. Again, I don't know if he's into like the whole like, oh, I can feel the energy of the universe, but like he knows something is happening. He knows that a battle is coming, and this is kind of his chance, right? Because it's funny because, okay, that's clearly what they're building to, right? They're going to take over the farm. Again, I don't see any possibility where Kettle and his crew, his farm, is able to oppose Canute. Like, they're bringing over 100 men plus Floki. Floki's a monster on the battlefield, right? So it's like, if you like, you're gonna die, and honestly, we don't really care. We just want the farm. I mean, I suppose they do care because they need someone to run the farm, but still, it's like, what are they gonna do? I mean, Thorfinn is there. If Thorfinn were to sink back into the whole warrior mindset, he could do a lot of damage, but I'm not sure that he can go after 100 men plus Floki. Like, I just don't see that. And on top of that, we saw Thorfinn not wanting to hurt anyone anymore. So it's like, I don't really think he's gonna turn into warrior Thorfinn. So we'll see. Again, I would love to see it, just for the fact of we know what Thorfinn can do. But from like a character growth perspective, I don't want to see it, because that's clearly ruined him. That's like traumatized him, right? And so him trying to move past it is what he needs. So we'll see. I'm very excited for the second half of the season, though. Next, finishing up in SPECTRE Season 2, we got episode 12. This one was interesting. It was a very interesting way to end the season. The way SPECTRE is paced is so different than any other show I've watched, where it's like, they just don't care. Like, there's no real like formula to it. It's just like, hey, we're telling this little mini story and this little mini story, and we have one episode left, and we're just gonna like what's the word? Sprint. I was thinking swift. I was like, okay, swift is an adjective, also a Pokemon move, but not the word I'm looking for. We're just gonna sprint through this whole story to to the point where I feel like it's kind of neat in the way of showing how cases and information can come to Kodako, where like obviously in every other one this season, I mean, yeah, she obviously talks to the spirits and yokai and all that stuff, but in this one, again, it was just kind of rapid fire. It was like, yeah, everything just kind of happened, just kind of worked out, and I'm just gonna come to you, and I'm gonna be ruthless, as as Kuro put it, and I'm gonna tell you like it is, and then I'm gonna walk away. It's kind of showing more of her style with this. And again, we've seen it for 2 seasons, but it is super different, than I feel like other anime protagonists would approach these types of situations. So again, not really too much to tell though. The whole case was cool, right? It was honestly kind of similar to the last case, except it was more real and it was more he like admitted to it basically. It wasn't like this weird conspiracy where like his wife died and it turns out that he killed her, right? He killed her because he was super obsessive and possessive and all those adjectives, and he knew that she was gonna divorce him, and so he was like, all right, well, if I can't have her, no one can, literally. So he killed her, and really the most interesting part of this episode, I feel, was how his friend just nailed it. His friend just absolutely nailed it, and like really, really weird. Like, I don't know, it's very strange for like your best friend to suspect you of murder and just not say anything, and then out of nowhere, not really out of nowhere, but just like at like a dinner, be like, you killed her. I don't know. Just kind of struck me as odd. Never killed anyone though, so never been put in that position. But yeah, I think that was cool. Again, like the pacing of that whole like lunch scene was so odd because they kept coming back to Kodako and they kept being like, oh, isn't it strange that like a middle school girl is eating at this fine establishment? And it's like, why do you keep focusing on this? Why does this matter? And then just the weird like unease that aspect of the story put on this whole scene was like obviously purposeful, but like it was so weird. And it was because you were just kind of, I feel like I was on the edge of my seat like waiting for Kodako to be like, yes, I am here for a reason, but no, she never does. She just sits there, eats quietly, and leaves. Again, we find out at the end that it was a very big coincidence. Obviously she was after him to kind of tell him everything, but it was funny to like keep coming back to Kodako and how like she's the main character of the show, but for like 80% of this entire episode, she's not the focus. Like she is, weirdly enough, but she's not, like, she doesn't say a single word the whole time. Well, I mean, except for she says thank you for the food at the very beginning, I think, right? But yeah, and this whole thing, having this conversation, and then she keeps cutting back to her. I just thought that was cool. Turns out that he was going to turn himself in the whole time. He kind of tried to atone for his sins. He's lifting the guilt off his shoulders, and then Kodako finds him and kind of spills everything, and very heartbreaking, because this is also very different than any of the other cases because she doesn't do anything about it, right? It was funny where he wanted to pay her to exorcise his wife's ghost, and she was just like, no, for 2 reasons. One, I don't owe anything to humans. I am the goddess of wisdom for the, what you say, like Bakamano or something like that. And then 2, she's not breaking the law. She's not breaking the like rules of the universe or something. Everything she's doing is perfectly justified. You murdered her for something that was caused by your own actions, your own attitude, your own like toxicity of your relationship with her caused her to want to leave you. You knew that she was going to do that, so you killed her. Like, she completely innocent in this situation, so you just, I love the like hopelessness and the dread that puts back on him, because she's just like, yeah, I mean, at some point she'll probably get bored of haunting you, and you just have to live until then. And also just to flip his world upside down, because he thought that him finally accepting it and turning himself in, like, made himself about 10 pounds lighter, right? And then for her to be like, no, you're just imagining that. She's still with you. She is still very much here, and you still have to live with this. Um, and then even for a hot second there, he was like, she's just a little girl. I could kill her right now. And it's just like, I was just hearing, you're just hearing his thoughts, and you just sitting here thinking to yourself like, what would that do? you're you're gonna kill Kotoko for what? She's just telling you the truth, just telling you what it is, and so you're gonna lash out at her? Come on, that's not gonna do anything. Um, and then yeah, and then she acts very Kotoko like esque at the end, where she's just like, yeah, it was a coincidence. I heard that those eels do something for love or whatever, and I'm seeing my boyfriend tonight, so gotta eat that food. It was like unagi or something, right? Onagi. Yeah. So, and then at the very end we have a little like epilogue-ish ending where she's talking to Kuro, and she's like, she doesn't like that he's working all the time, and then I ate the food last night, so you don't gotta hold back. And I'm like, all right. Why does it always lead back to that? But yeah, again, it was a very weird episode. It was paced very oddly, and it was just kind of like, let's just sprint through this thing, but it was almost like reflective of the last case. And then also, like I said, I love how there's so many coincidences in Kotoko's life, and then for her to just be like, yeah, this is what it is, bye. I love that. So yeah, good season, solid. Again, I don't know how much, at the end of the day, I don't know how much I really love Inspector. I did think I liked the first season more. This whole kind of like every 2 or 3 episodes we just get another mystery is kind of wearing on me. If they do a 3rd season, I don't know that I'm gonna jump on it. I might let it brew for a little bit unless people are like, nah, Inspector, best show of the season so far, then I might hop on it. But again, I'm not saying that I'm never, if they do make it Thursday, I'm never gonna watch. I'm just saying that, like, I don't know that I'm gonna need to watch it week to week. Kind of is wearing on me a little bit. I feel like they have to like switch up the formula a little bit. Give it more stakes. I feel like they were kind of hinting at that a little bit with Rika. I totally thought, I think last episode I might have said this, where I totally thought that they were going to focus on Rika this episode and like tracking her down or something. I just feel like the whole like Scooby-Doo-ness of it is kind of getting a little old for me. I would like a more like overarching plot to follow that like spans the whole season, maybe. Not just like a bunch of little side stories. So that's just me though. Next, and our final winter show today is Tokyo Revengers Season 2, Episode 12. Yeah, this one was great. This one was very heavy, and yeah, a lot of stuff happened, and it ends in a way where you're like, this is how the story still happens. This is how we're gonna get a season 3, because there's no way. And he's gonna do what he has to do in one episode. It's not gonna be that easy. So basically this whole episode, right, was him coming back, and him seeing that people are dead, him seeing that Hinata even died, which is hilarious. It's not funny, it's not like, it's not funny in like a good way. It's funny in more of like a cruel way, where it's like, she still died. he just can't change the past in a way to make it so she survives in the present / future. He just can't do it. Like, that is his one goal. Now I feel like it's become more than that, because he's grown so close with the other Tomon members, where he also doesn't want them to die, where the show started out with him just trying to save Hinata. But yeah, I just like laughed audibly when that happened, because like I feel so bad for him, because he's doing everything he can. He sees that what's it Mitsuya was dead, right? That was Mitsuya's funeral, I believe. And then him like going online, him being like, Hinata also dead in a vehicular accident. It's just like, when it rains it pours, right? And then Naoto comes in, says this is the worst timeline. Literally everyone in the Tokyo Manji gang is dead, except for you. And he asks, well, what about Mikey? And he says, funny you say that. Mikey, prime suspect. We believe he killed everyone. It just kind of flips the world on, upside down, where you're like, why would Mikey do it, right? And you kind of think about it and you're like, okay, well, we have seen previously where Mikey was going kind of crazy, right? Even in the last timeline, Mikey kind of lost himself, right? He didn't like murder everyone, but he was murdering people, though, wasn't he? Wasn't that the thing where he was kind of going after some people? And so now with this one, he's already done it. He's killed everyone. He lost himself, right? And so they meet. They meet in the Philippines. And we just have a lot of flashbacks to other Tomon members, and it all does kind of build to the climax of this episode. But I do like how every single Tomon member that Mikey killed, there's a flashback to them mentioning Takemichi in one way or another. So like Draken and Mitsuya, when they were leaving, or when apparently Takemichi was leaving Tomon, they both were ride or die with Mikey, but they said leave Takemichi out of it. He's not built for this. This gang is getting more and more violent. It's kind of taking that path, that kind of angle on how to be successful, and Takemichi is not part of it. He's not built for it. So even them, they are with Mikey, but they still have Takemichi's name in their mouths. And then Chifuyu, even when Mikey was about to kill him, had the gun to his head, he even talked about how he mentioned Takemichi, and how you just have to look into his eyes. But he is pure. His eyes never lie. Listen to him. He even mentioned like some weird time travel-y stuff, which I'm sure Mikey didn't like. He definitely didn't understand. Why would anyone understand without some solid proof, right? But even that, even Hakai, when Mikey was like burning him alive, Hakai mentioned Takemichi, and how he just wanted all of Tomon, including Takemichi, to have dinner one last time or something, right? And so every single Tomon member had something positive and reminiscent to say about Takemichi, and that just goes to show Takemichi's reach and his impact on everybody, where it's like, again, like we've talked about this for almost 2 seasons now at this point, where it's like, and everyone knows it, where Takemichi not the best fighter, doesn't really have a lot of fighting skills, right? He cries all the time, but, and again, a few episodes ago, I think, I loved and pointed out a line that Draken said, where he was like, he kind of said all what I just said there, and then he said, but when the chips are down, Takemichi is dependable. He will be there for you, no doubt. And I think that just goes to show who Takemichi is, and why everyone loves him so much, and why everyone has this connection with him, even Mikey. Mikey loves this man, right? He was trying to make Takemichi his surrogate brother, and so that all happening, and Mikey kind of revealing all of this to him, bit by bit, for it to all come to a head, and Mikey admit, obviously, to killing all the Tomon members, that he lost himself. You left, I couldn't do it, and then for him to be like, here's a gun, kill me, please end this. It's just like, it was so sad, because we love Mikey, right? All the Tomon members for the most part, right? Draken, Chifuyu, Mitsuya, Hakai, we love all these guys, but Mikey's always been special. He was the leader, he was the one that brought him on, he was the one that slowly but surely turned out to be like a real good friend to Takemichi, and actually liked him for him, right? And so for it to get to this point, for him to want to die by the hand of Takemichi and just be like, it's over. Like I can't do this anymore. It's just so sad, you know. And then it's so good. Like it's just so good for him to for Takemichi to refuse, right, and be like, you haven't changed. You're the same. You're the same Mikey that you know I met all those years ago. And then for Mikey to get mad and pull the gun on him, gonna kill him, start crying, get mad at him, get frustrated with him because because Takemichi is saying these things that are true, but Mikey doesn't want to hear it, right? He wants to atone. He wants to pay for everything he did. Like he says it later where his whole life was suffering, right? And then Naoto shoots him in the head, kills him. Not immediately, which is weird because he shot him in the head. But it's anime, whatever. And then him to realize, like, another great detail, Naoto to see the gun that Mikey was using and to see that the safety was on, to see that he wasn't actually ever going to shoot and kill Takemichi. He wasn't going to do that. It's just more and more evidence that people love Takemichi, right? And Mikey especially loved this man with all of his heart. He was never going to kill him. He just wanted to provoke him so that so Takemichi, at the very least, out of maybe self-defense, would shoot and kill him. And then for him to be like, him to thank Naoto, Takemichi would have never done it. I'm so glad you did it. Again, my whole life was suffering. Now it ends. And then for Takemichi to be super torn up about it, as he should, and just be like, I'm gonna go back in time. And Mikey kind of laughed that off, and be like, thanks, thanks for trying to make me feel better. But we know that Takemichi is dead serious. Like right after this, he's gonna shake hands with Naoto and go back. And just again the whole sequence, just so heavy, and like so many truths were spilled. The love that these two characters have for each other is very evident, and for it to end this way, right? I mean, it's not the end. We know he's going to go back. We know he's going to do some more hijinks to try to get everyone alive. I mean, either way, even without this Mikey stuff, like, Hinata's dead. Like, he was going to go back. But yeah, like, this was definitely the worst timeline. The worst timeline by far. So, like I said, there's definitely more. I mean, there's more manga. We already know that, but I imagine very easily we're gonna get a season 3 out of this, and because was he need to wrap everything up next episode? No way, impossible. He doesn't even know what caused everything. Next episode honestly is probably gonna be a lot of him and Naoto talking, trying to go over everything and be like, okay, what was the trigger? Why did this happen? Why did because everything I did was supposed to be perfect, right? Like, everyone lived. You know how to deal with any deaths. We took out Black Dragon. Kiski was kicked out. Like, it's golden. Why? So very excited for next episode. And then lastly, we have the one new show that did air in time for me to check it out. Hell's Paradise episode 1. This is something. This is definitely one I mentioned earlier that I feel like could be in the running for best show of the season. Obviously sequels always kind of muddy the waters, when it comes to what everyone's favorite show of the season is, because how are you going to compete with something like Demon Slayer, or even something like Konosuba? People have been waiting for more Konosuba, me included, for a while, right? But Hell's Paradise, man. Is Hell's Paradise Mappa? I think it is. It's something. It's a very cool setup. So we have a main character, Gabamaru. He's like a shinobi. He can use ninjutsu, which is pretty cool. We got some Naruto action. And he just can't die, right? He's so the kind of interesting little backstory to him is that he loves his wife more than anything, which is great. I love the wife. The wife loves him back, right? And it's great because it's kind of because throughout the episode we don't see her face. When we finally do see her face, we see that she has a huge burn mark. Apparently, her dad burned her to, because like, oh, if you're a burned face, then men won't want you, and now you're not a real woman or something. I'm just like, whoa, that's that is awful. That's an awful thing to do to your child. Um, you know, but it's just funny because in his mind he's like, I don't deserve her. Like I'm all beat up, like I have scars everywhere, like I have a terrible occupation, I kill people, right? Um but then on her end, she's like, you're the only guy that loves me for me and doesn't like get like repulsed by the scar on my face. Like you love me, right? Like why wouldn't, like I'm the lucky one, right? It's just so good. um but then it turns out that we see a little bit of, maybe his wife doesn't super love all the shinobi stuff. She puts on a brave face, but you can tell that she would very much rather her husband not be doing this sort of stuff, and maybe try to have a different job, a little safer, a little calmer, a little more secure, that sort of thing. So he tries to quit, and the people are like, you're not quitting, you're not doing that, you're a traitor. And so then he goes all out because he's nice, and he kills like 20 people. And that's why he was captured, right? Why he's in jail, why he's condemned to death, right? So pretty interesting backstory, right? Doing it all for love. It was for a very noble reason, a very very pure of heart type reason. So that's cool, right? So we set that aside, and we see the present day where he can't be killed, right? I love the progression here where he just can't be killed, right? He can't get sliced on the neck, burned to death, doesn't do anything. We got the oil, that doesn't do anything. The bulls can't pull him apart, crazy. And we see what's her name? I wrote it down. Sagiri. Sagiri. She kind of wears it out of him, where because he keeps saying, oh, I just can't die. I would love to die. I would love to just end it. Because I believe at this point he believes his wife is dead, right? Or maybe he just believes that he's never going to see her again. So he's like, oh, if I can't see her again, there's no reason for me to live. She is everything to me. But then you kind of start getting a little closer peeks at what he's doing, and even Sagiri kind of points it out, and she's like, you're resisting. You don't want to die. And then we kind of cut to some of his previous murder attempts on his life, and we do see that he was like bracing himself, like he doesn't want to die. There is still something to him, and it's his wife. It's the idea of him being able to see her again and love her again, and all that stuff, which is awesome, right? And let's see. Yeah. So then that kind of all comes to a head at the end, where Sagiri turns out to be like one of the legendary swordswomen or something, part of that clan, and she is ordered to kill him. They have a pretty cool fight scene here with all the sword stuff, and he's holding his own and all that. And then there's kind of had the conversation about the whole, like, you still have an attachment to this world, to your wife, all that stuff. Your wife is alive, all that good stuff, and she eventually stops him, and she says, I will pardon you, but you have to go to the underworld, otherwise known as paradise, otherwise known as heaven, has many different names. And this is kind of where the show's going, right? Hell's Paradise, right? Where there's this place, this like mystical, fantastical place that apparently has the elixir of life. You imagine that's like the fountain of youth, maybe, kind of that idea. And everyone that they've sent there before, their bodies have been sent back, and their bodies turn to flowers, which is pretty sick. So they're kind of tasked with sending just anyone out there. So their idea is to be like, okay, well, we're just gonna send people out that are on death row. Like they're gonna die anyway. Let's send them out there. Again, I think I did a spring 2023 preview episode that came out a few days before this episode dropped, and I did kind of mention that this is gonna be real like Suicide Squad type vibes, where it's like, well, you're all criminals and you're in jail forever, but if you do this stuff, you can have your sentence reduced. And so that's kind of what's happening here. Is like, hey, you're condemned to death, but if you do this stuff, we'll give you a full pardon and you go back to your wife. Obviously, with the full anticipation that you could very much well die, because everyone else has as well. But he takes it, he loves it, all that stuff, right? He's gonna do it. So yeah, that is kind of the setup for the show. Very very cool. Again, Gabimaru, love to hear more about him. I like his backstory, how it's all based in love for his wife, and the fight scene so far really cool. The idea is really cool, where it's like, okay, we're going to this place. It's kind of like unlimited potential, because it could just be magic and there could be anything here. And then also what we do know is that there are going to be more people there, right? Not only from the trailers for the anime, but also just for what they talked about, where it's like they're not going to only send Gabimaru, like they're going to send other people as well. So it'd be cool to kind of see their characters, maybe learn a little bit more about their backstories, and maybe see them develop relationships, like become friends with each other, and actually and then just the show's goal itself, which is finding the elixir of life. Like, what does that even look like? What are their obstacles, right? So yeah, it's a really cool setup. I'm very very intrigued by this show. Yeah, so good stuff. And that is it. Not another isekai for this week. Yeah, not too many shows. Like I said, we're in that super middle area where it's like most of the shows that we're watching I've already finished. As you can see, I've only covered 4 winter shows, and one of them, only one of them is a 2-core. So, and then not really anything has really started yet. So yeah, still good stuff. Excited to wrap up. Let's see, Vinland Saga we're continuing through, but Tokyo Revengers is the only show left that we're gonna wrap up next week. Obviously gonna watch more Hell's Paradise, and by next week we will have at least another few shows that have aired by then that we can talk about. If you're not sure which shows those are gonna be, go back 1 episode and watch the preview for spring 2023. I talked about all the shows. I think I covered 15 shows in total that I'm planning on checking out. So yeah, go check that out, and that is it. Until next time, watch more anime.